Hey there, Chief Meteorologist Matt Lawpon alongside our meteorologist Gabe Maynor here as we are tracking some severe thunderstorm warnings that have been issued for parts of the Mississippi Live weather coverage area here. We're watching these, of course, in the room-to-room weather center. A couple that you can see. The first here, it does include Coahoma County. They're stretching into Tallahatchie County, as you'll note here. In fact, till 5:30, as well as Quitman County. One that just barely clips Tunica County up here until 5:30 as well. In either case, I'd say some strong gusty winds. One of the main factors with this to go along with the potential for some large hailstones potentially on the strongest of these storms as well. Let's kind of dig in here first with the storm around Clarksdale. And we're kind of looking at the storm kind of approaching there. You can see with that kind of black return, certainly there is some hail aloft with this thunderstorm. Look three-dimensionally on this, and yeah, this one's fairly impressive. And I think when this one goes through whatever collapsing phase it'll eventually go through, it's definitely going to have with it an extra little kick there as well. And Gabe, if you can hear me behind the scenes there, just a heads up, we probably ought to do a push alert for this as well. I'm not sure if we got that back there at the station, but yeah, let's go ahead and do that as well. I'm going to cut through this and look toward the most impressive returns on this. And you'll notice when we kind of cut through this, when I get to this pink here, that's 58 dBZs. 55 is when it kind of starts to go to that bright, bright pink there. As I keep cutting, yeah, when I get all the way down here to where it's kind of black and showing up, that would be 65 dBZ returns to about 20,000 feet. All of that translates to this is likely some hail and maybe some decent sized hail with it. We'll look at our hail track here in just a second. Let's look at the hail potential out of this. And yeah, it does show that kind of concentrated area there where we have potential for some hail in that kind of yellow zone there. We'll say where it's, I would say somewhere between probable, the possible that we're looking at some large hail out of this and maybe some hail that's up in excess of an inch in size or so. So it's certainly one of the stronger looking thunderstorms. And when that goes through whatever collapsing phase it will go through, that's when we're going to have it probably kick out some damaging winds as it eventually goes through that. So looking at the severe threats with this, as you can see estimations on Mississippi Live Weather Radar there of hail in excess of 3 inches. I buy at least 2-inch hail on this, and 3 might not be impossible as well. So I do think our severe threats on this actually might be fairly accurate as far as that is concerned. Let's get a loop on this. I'm going to make this a 1-hour loop, as you'll note here, kind of a spark point up here. And let's just watch this one more time. It's just not moving very fast at all. This is a 1-hour loop, but the hail portion of this is really just kind of out there north of the Roundway community. Let's go ahead and clear that off there near Counts, south of Clarksdale. I think largely the hail potential on this probably stays a little south. The concerning thing is this does have a little bit of rotation with it, not necessarily tornado sort of rotation, but definitely holding the hail up and a likelihood to kind of do that for a longer period of time. Bring it back to the latest scans here, and I'm going to just check where the darkest blue there, yeah, 3-inch plus size hail. So I would say guarantee at this point here that we're dealing with hail. Just some questions as to how exactly large that hail ends up being. Let's go and clear off all this possible, probable sort of stuff. Yeah, I mean, you can see now we have this one spot there. We have some of the darker orange in the far southwest corner of Coahoma County, where we're definitely in the high end of probable. So, I mean, we're probably dealing with some decent sized hail out of that. So back on the precipitation mode here, let's check for the wind. Because again, as it goes through the collapsing phase, that's when it's most likely to kick out some of those stronger wind gusts here. And we'll leave this where it's kind of looping again, take this to a 1-hour loop. And you can definitely see that don't have a ton of wind being kicked out of this quite yet. I do think it's probably too far outside of the main wind analysis ability. Yeah, we're just too far out from that Memphis radar up there at the airport to really get a good look at that. So to clear that off. But one way we can get a good look at it, and I'm sure North Mississippi Storm Chasers have already kind of helped us with this here, 2 shots. We have a camera up there in Crenshaw. It looks like we are still kind of looking in the distance to that. As we bring it a little closer, the Tunica camera would have the storm that is moving toward Tunica that has some of the strong gusty sort of winds with it. We're looking back into the blue there. But also to kind of walk down here, we have the camera in Clarksdale that is definitely looking back into that. Of course, Clarksdale, you were under that severe thunderstorm warning. I'm going to see if I can pull up here behind the scenes our ability to kind of change which the direction everything the camera is looking. So give me just a moment, see if I can pull up that analysis here. So give me just a second to kind of tweak that. So I want to see if we're looking the right direction on this stations. And Gabe, if you can, Clarksdale behind the scenes, adjust some of these. Actually, we might not be able to adjust that one right now. But definitely looking at some of the wind, starting to bounce that camera around just a little bit. I want to slide and check and see if our Shelby camera has a slightly better view of that one. Let's go south to Shelby. You can see where I'm kind of clicking there on the screen. Also, kind of on the other side of this, yeah, unfortunately, kind of looking is an interesting return right there. I'm going to bring this in a little closer. You can kind of see some of the organization kind of on the back side of this, as I have both kind of that camera there, which is kind of looking back generally into this. That's some decent size hail for sure out of that. That's probably that hail core there, but there is some broad rotation showing on that as well. So some definitely reason to think there's some gusty winds, and I'd say that definitely qualifying as a severe thunderstorm. Probably one of the strongest that we've had. Certainly, I'd say the strongest today. Maybe stronger in our storm yesterday as well. It did cause that damage in Lafayette County. So again, 5:30, that severe thunderstorm warning in effect for you there in Coahoma, sections of Quitman County, as well as Tallahatchie County, but it's primarily southern parts there of Coahoma County where that is the most significant at this point and time. Again, we're looking up at this thunderstorm that was approaching Helena, West Helena there, and Tunica. Tunica County, 5:30 there. Phillips, Arkansas, as well as Lee, Arkansas, until 5:30 on this severe thunderstorm warning. Let's go ahead and get storm tracks on each of these, because I do think that this is probably might be dropping some of that hail right now. Oh yeah, that's, I would say in the last couple minutes has really done an effective job of dropping that hail. Again, with fairly rural areas down here near the Roundway community, but I don't really have the hail portion of this moving super fast. I mean, I would show, golly, 15 miles per hour might be a little too fast there. So we show Tutwiler, at 5:33 there. Fuel at 5:52. And I'll see if I can kind of throw on some other locations as well, some maybe slightly smaller locations. Give me a moment here to do that. It does not look like we have a whole lot of other spots out there. No big shock. Obviously, this is largely some rural farmland that a large portion of that is dealing with at this point in time. I do want to bring in our meteorologist, Gabe Maynor here. Have not heard you yet. Your mic on back there at the station, Gabe? Okay, I do see it on, but I cannot. Apparently, I'm going to have to pop it up here so that I can hear it as well. So give me just a moment here. Can you hear me now, Gabe?
Yes. I've been just kind of
hear you.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. So what you got?
Well, basically what I've been looking at is for any storm reports, and so far we've steered clear of that. Haven't gotten any from our viewers, and the National Weather Service doesn't have any so far in their chat, which, as we say all the time, is a fortunate thing whenever it comes to severe weather. So if we continue to keep that going, well, then that is telling us that a lot of this is elevated. But with a hail core like that, I mean, just watching you assess it behind the scenes, there's no way that's not reaching the surface, just with how solid that hail core is. I've been trying to pan a few of these cameras around, so keep letting me know what camera and where you want it, and I'll keep trying to direct those behind the scenes. But yeah, just getting a view on the towering cloud base that we have on the storm. It still has that rigid pattern, so it doesn't show a collapsing phase necessarily as of this point. So that hail core still on the up and up, unfortunately, so probably still producing some large hail.
I think it's definitely producing some large hail. But I would say when we start, and at least this is one thing I've noticed over time, and we'll look 3D on this here again in a second, but when you get like right there, about 447, 448, we get all those black returns. More often than not, you just dumped your hail core at that point in time. That's not to say that there's not another one regenerating up there, but that's about as rough as you get. Well, no, actually, we're looking from Monroe County, Gabe. This is why you always have to check me on this here. Let me pull this back up here for a second. Because if we look instead from the Memphis radar that's a little bit closer, now probably also dump that hail core there as well. Let's look 3D on this for a moment again. And again, we do still show that pretty sharp hail core aloft with that. Let's go ahead and I'm going to slide where it says severe thunderstorm warning over just a little bit. No, it's got a lot of stuff on the screen there. And let's go ahead and slice into this as well. and see if we still have that big hail core. Now, see, that's what I think's happened there. I think we still have a decent amount that is in the falling phase. Where the mouse is showing up there, that would be right about, so that's about 10,000 feet, 20,000 feet. So it did still have some, probably 15,000 feet. This big black blob you see there, that is likely our hail. And if I go back a couple of scans, you'll notice how, well, it takes us a while to do the 3D scans. Yeah, yeah. So we can go back to 444 there. So you can see how this has gone through a collapsing phase. So it is spilling out whatever big hail it has probably at this point. That also means whatever wind damage it has isolated in those locations as well. So I'd say largely we're at the peak of wind and other potential damage on this thunderstorm at this instant. Another thunderstorm up closer to Clarksdale. We'll pop up that camera here. Look a little more detail at that one. Give me a moment. This would be up toward the Clarksdale area. A couple different storms that we're obviously watching there close to town. One that's pretty much over top of town. That's where some of the raindrops are. And then, of course, looking back into some of the more active weather there as well related to that thunderstorm. Current time is 4:57. I'm Chief Meteorologist Matt Laupon. Of course, we do have our meteorologist Gabe Maynor back at the broadcast facility at this moment as we are watching a severe thunderstorm warning with probably the largest hail collapsing out of it at this instant here, up here close to Tutwiler and Clarksdale. Let's get a storm track on kind of that northern section. I do think we actually have some movement on it. A lot of times we do more storm tracks in this scenario, but the part that has the big hail with it just has not done a lot of movement with it. But I want to see this Clarksdale portion. Let's get a loop here. That one actually is kind of moving a little bit, so we can't actually get a reasonable storm track on it. That's one of the challenges is that, if we're going to do a storm track, we want to make sure it actually has some validity to it. And tracking that about 15 miles per hour back toward the north and east. We show Belden there at about 524, 543 at Essex, Darling at 548 and 555 for Falcon. Speaking of that, we have a typical broadcast that we start off here at this time, and I do want to begin our 5 o'clock broadcast here for Mississippi Live weather. I'm working on that behind the scenes here, so we'll get that up for you in just a second. Of course, we'll be looking a lot more detail at everything related to the storm coverage out there, so give us just a moment, and we'll be right back with more coverage here for Mississippi Live weather at 5.
Mississippi's trusted weather experts. This is Mississippi Live Weather at 5.
Well, welcome in here to the Room to Room Weather Center. We are tracking severe thunderstorms out there in the Mississippi Delta, one along Shelby and Clarksdale and another there towards Marianna, Arkansas, impacting areas along Tunica County and there towards Coahoma County. I'm going to toss to our Chief Meteorologist Matt Laupon live in the Room to Room Weather Center, tracking more on what to expect with these storms. And Matt, so far we're getting a lot of hail returns when it comes to this weather.
But are we getting a lot of hail reports? I guess that's the next question. Anybody talking about that on social media at this point?
Well, so far, I've not seen anything from our weather watchers out in the field, so I do encourage folks that don't go out in this hail, because if it's verifying what's actually falling, you don't want to be under this. But after the fact, there should still be a few stones on the ground. Snap a picture of it next to a coin or something like that to kind of verify that size. But again, our weather watchers do a great job of reporting those things to us, and so far, so good, meaning that we haven't gotten a report, and neither has the National Weather Service. So we're steering clear on those aspects, and as this is dumping the worst of it, if that continues to be the case, I think we dodged a bullet here.
Okay, and we'll look at some of those weather pictures that you have picked up on here in a couple of minutes there in the Room to Room Weather Center. I'm Chief Meteorologist Matt Laupon. Current time is now 5:01 as we are tracking some isolated thunderstorms. Unfortunately, I have them all positioned, behind me here, so let's get that kind of scooted over. 2 severe thunderstorm warnings affecting parts of North Mississippi out here in the Delta. We've talked a lot about these in the last couple of minutes. We do think that the storm near Clarksdale is in a collapsing phase. I do want to address other thunderstorms we have out there and kind of assess overall threats out of all of these. First off, the hail threat has been very significant out of some of these thunderstorms. So I'm going to make this a 1 hour loop here, and we can kind of track where that threat certainly had a spike there for a moment south of Clarksdale. That has gone through a collapsing phase. It's probably dropped its biggest tail. I point that out to also look at the storms that we have across the northern part of northeast part of Mississippi. And as I change our radar side over, looking for hail potential out of these, not something that I really have shown up at this point here. When I also look at our severe shear, the ability for thunderstorms to have wind shear, a wind change in direction that could be damaging. As you'll note here, we don't have a lot of that showing up as well. So these thunderstorms largely across the northern part and eastern part of the state are much weaker. Maybe another way to show this here is also looking at kind of this shot. We look for the darker blues. Those tend to be storms where the hail potential is the greatest, but at the same time the hail potential is the greatest, that potential that when they collapse and really drop everything out and have some issues is also greatest as well. And so you'll see only a couple spots where we even show any blue here in the northeast part of the state. And obviously that bullseye that showed up for a moment out there in southern sections of Coahoma County, south of Clarksdale. Now, you notice in that latest update coming just moments ago, it does show that that is largely completely, well, not largely completely, but has mostly gone away, that blue just last minute. And this shows you just how intense these can be for a very brief period of time. With that intense dark blue showing up there, as it likely had some hail up in excess of an inch to maybe 2 inches in size there in the far southeast corner there of Coahoma County, south of Clarksdale. The worst of that staying away from Clarksdale as well at this point and time. Bring it back here to precipitation mode. We have another severe thunderstorm warning in effect up here that's for a storm that largely looks like it's going to stay north of Tunica. It's going to be kind of a close call for Tunica, maybe locations just a little bit north. I'm going to track this at about 20 miles per hour. Let's double check that speed for just a moment here. So I show the last hour, actually closer to 30. Let's give this one more loop. Yeah, I have that going closer to 30 miles per hour. So that's why we double check, right? So based on the latest scan and where this is going at about 30 miles per hour here, it might end up clipping Tunica, though it's aimed just a little bit farther north than that. And let's extend that track out further to instead, let's make it a 60-mile track. And so again, we're looking Tunica about 5:53 for you, getting there closer to Robbinsville at about 6:04. 6:16 closer there to the Marionette community. But certainly at this point, some gusty winds, maybe some hailstones with that one as well. Let's bring it back here to the northeast part of the state. Again, we've had some reports of power outages off and on today, though not a ton of those reports coming in. As we check the power outage numbers, as you can see, it's primarily, as I bring this to the latest scan here, locations where we had some of that wind damage reported earlier, including some power lines down and a car that hit a tree that was down. Only 100 outages reported there up in Marshall County, Lafayette County, 100 outages, and back out here toward Batesville and Panola County, 100 outages. So we will see if some additional power outages come out into the Alabama side. But in general, luckily, things aren't a whole lot worse than that. I do want to bring in our meteorologist, Gabe Maynard. Gabe, what you got?
Well, I was just going to say that where you were tracking that storm that's moving through eastern Arkansas into northwest Mississippi, you were looking out of the Monroe County site. So we might have a better visual of using that Memphis site in regards to the intensity of that thunderstorm and maybe get a track that could be a few minutes ahead of time because, you know, we're scanning very high up at that point. So I was just going to catch you on that because I know flipping here and there is kind of tough to keep track of where you're at, but we can go ahead and change that radar site over there to the Memphis area. And if I pull up that precipitation mode, you're still seeing a decent output there along parts of eastern Arkansas as it moves across Highway 49 into Marianna and West Helena. I mean, that severe thunderstorm warning in place until 5:30 around the Phillips, Arkansas, but just clipping Tunica County there in Mississippi. So that is extended until 5:30 and still getting decent outputs on that storm. And Matt, I'm going to let you track this out because we can get more of a broad track as you are on our storm track right now. But that severe thunderstorm still pretty intense, at least more intense than what that other storm is that has currently entered the collapsing phase in Coahoma County. So this is definitely one to pay attention to as it crosses the state line and into Tunica County.
Okay, so let's look at that in a little more detail. Appreciate our meteorologist, Gabe Maynard there. Well, I do need from you, Gabe, if you can, behind the scenes. Let's go ahead and interface with some folks on Facebook and YouTube chat over there to kind of see what they are seeing and just kind of double check what's going through there. Our meteorologist, Gabe Maynard, back at the Mississippi Live Weather Studios. We're here, of course, in the Room to Room Weather Center in both cases, tracking these thunderstorms. That one near Rondo is the one that obviously Gabe was talking about. And when we are closer up here, I'm less impressed with this the closer we've gotten to this thunderstorm here. This one probably in the collapsing phase largely as well. Let's look at those severe threats on this, kind of analyze it. This does still show some hail potential out of this thunderstorm, but again, that's still moving in the direction there. It's going to take a little while before it gets to Tunica or South Haven or locations such as that. So I do want to bring things here back over to the Columbus radar site, kind of bring it back into the northeast part of the state where, of course, we have a lot of folks that watch us and want to check on that thunderstorm that we do have down there in Chickasaw County. Looks like, again, kind of ahead of some of these other thunderstorms. Again, a non-severe thunderstorm. So I'll see if I can go ahead and try to clear that off. There we go. And so let's get some movement on this storm here. And we might be able to get a shot of this, Gabe, behind the scenes from the Tupelo camera. We'd have to swing that around toward the south-southwest to kind of have a shot of this. More in the development phases, but this one, we've kind of analyzed those severe threats on it, just kind of boil it all down to the lowest scan. Does briefly, for a moment there, try to show that maybe it had some hail. So near Highway 32 in Okolona, not impossible that we could have a couple of hailstones with this. And as I, again, leave this as a 1 hour loop, I want to double check the speed on this as well. So give me a moment. See, now it didn't really get going until about halfway through the hour. So we're going to have to, that means we get to do the math in our heads on this. So let me think, about an hour and 10 minutes. So I would still put that, I'd put that probably 20, let's overestimate and say 20 miles per hour, how fast that one is moving there. So back to the precipitation mode, bring it back to current time here. And we kind of track that forward. We'll get a storm track about 20 miles per hour out of that. Again, Shannon, Verona kind of in the path of that as well. You can see Leotis at about 520 there, 527 Pine Grove, Shannon about 531, 539 Brewer, Union at 548, and close to Plantersville 553, and Skyline by about 6:04. I want to bring in our meteorologist, Gabe Maynor. He's going to take a look at that camera that we have out there in the Tupelo area. We kind of referenced that a minute ago, Gabe, and definitely watching a few things out of that camera.
Yeah, I mean, we can see where that downpour is taking place, pulling up that Tupelo camera here real quick. This is looking south-southwest there towards the Okolona area, right along Highway 32. So as we pull that up and look south-southwest, we can see basically that entire rain shaft. And what it is it's still dumping heavy amounts of rainfall and a decent hail core possible as well. It's not like what we saw out west, where you're going to be getting possibly 1 to 2 inch hailstones. This is going to be pea to dime-sized hail at most, if a lot of that's reaching the surface. I mean, still 82 degrees, so a lot of that melting before it reaches the ground. But with a setup like what we have today, this is definitely a potential for at least a few of those hailstones reaching all the way to the surface. Now, I do want to say, we are looking south-southwestward. This is probably the only visual that we'll have here for the moment, because as we track what's happening out there towards the west, we can see that line of showers and storms starting to move on through, but not nearly the intensity that it once was as it moved through Batesville, as it moved through Oxford, as it moved through Holly Springs. That entire line now moving eastward and giving Lee County some good amounts of rainfall. I mean, man, I know your house and my house in desperate need of it, as well as a good portion of North Mississippi. I'll let you drive things here for a minute. Do what?
I'll let you drive things here for a minute.
Okay. So yeah, this is continuing to look out of the Tupelo tower camera, or should I say the North Mississippi Storm Chasers camera there in Tupelo. But as we pull it back onto precipitation mode here on Mississippi Live Weather, we're continuing to see some decent downpours with that storm. Not a lot of electricity, and usually that's a telltale sign of some lift that's in the atmosphere. So whenever that's lacking, we're talking about 4 strikes over the last 30 minutes. This isn't exactly a thunderstorm that we need to be paying attention to in too much detail. Moving across Highway 32 as of this point, going to expand it out I'll expand it out twice. And let's put it on a loop over the last 30 and track the movement on this, continuing to move in that northeast motion, kind of following the same trends as the storms out behind it. So if we put it on that latest scan and track that leading edge, and we're still talking about, you know what, I'm going to need to expand this out one more time. This is one of the faster moving storms compared to what we've seen the past few days. So as that continues to move about 20 to 30 miles an hour and we get up closer to the Tupelo area, you can see Leotis by about 513, Shannon closer to about 522, Brewer 529, Plantersville 539, Tupelo 544, Priceville 546, on there towards the Shady Acres area by 546 as well. Auburn Community 549 and Moorville 552. So this is again one of the more electric storms over this entire line of storms, but overall not concerned with any of these storms with this cluster of showers and thunderstorms. If anything, this is just beneficial altogether, giving us some decent outputs of rainfall. If we pull that up here real quick, I'm curious to see what the rainfall is like over the last, I know we can pull that up. Hang on one second.
Go to Tower,
Tower,
the Memphis Tower,
rainfall rate.
and then you can do rainfall rate, or you can do 3-hour rainfall.
Let's do 3-hour rainfall. I'm curious because this kind of tells us what happened as it moved through Lafayette and Panola County where those heaviest downpours were. And you're seeing some of that yellow pop up, and that yellow is about 1.9 inches. So this is it's not going to be a drought buster, but it's a drought helper, meaning that it's taking some of it away as 1 to 2 inches of rainfall continues to progress across North Mississippi. So clearing that out, we can go back to our radar real quick and assess. I'm actually going to go back to Memphis radar, and we're going to go back out to these storms towards Tunica County, Coahoma County, moving through Tutwiler as of right now. That strong thunderstorm that produced this or prompted the severe thunderstorm warning, definitely not nearly the intensity that it once was. If we look at those threats, our threat tracker, I mean, maybe some small hail reaching the ground there towards the Roundaway community as we populated that in right there. More than likely, you're just getting some heavy downpours. As you can see, about 1 to 2 inches an hour for a large part of that thunderstorm as it moves on the west side of Tutwiler, more towards Balter, Counts, Dublin, and Matson. Going to expand it out a few right here. And Matt, you said about 20 miles an hour on this? No, this was the one that wasn't moving really, right?
That one's going through a collapsing phase, and I think we'll probably revisit that one a little later on in the show because I don't know that it even makes it all the way through Tutwiler or Charleston. So it's kind of working toward the east.
I haven't checked chat here real quick to see if they're going to expire that, but that did expire at around what time was it? I know the other one was around 5:30.
I'll let you double check that. I want to say it's
both until 5:30.
Okay. So yeah, so let's go ahead and here's what I think we'll do. Let's kind of dive into some of the show here for a moment, and then we'll kind of go from there. So give me a moment, and I'll kind of hop in here with our first 12, which is kind of where we tend to begin our broadcasts here as well. We'll look back at a radar here in a minute. I would say this. I think largely the severe weather threat for those storms, those specific storms, I think is largely past its peak. Most of it is collapsed out. We still could get some sporadic severe weather reports, but certainly watching things on the downswing somewhat more because of that, at least on these current thunderstorms. We'll see what happens on the next batch there. As you can see, looking at the first 12, we're 86 degrees at 6 p.m. We're going to about 75 by 9. The overall coverage of storms eventually diminishing. So again, we've probably seen the peak of our severe weather potential as far as today is concerned. I think we have a slightly better chance to possibly see a few stronger thunderstorms for tomorrow and also Wednesday. Now, the timing of those two things and the exact location, something that our meteorologist Gabe Maynor and I are looking at in more detail here in a couple minutes. We're also looking at some of your weather pictures as Mississippi Live Weather at 5 o'clock continues here from the Room to Room Weather Center right after this.
Visualize perfection, freshly picked ingredients, tantalizing flavors, sweet and sour intertwine, and dance into your glass. One-of-a-kind arrangements, hitting every note. Why wait for the weekend? It's on at the grill.
Whether it's our stories, the warmth of our laugh, or our family's secret sauce, we all bring something different to the table. So make some space. The power of connection is waiting right outside your comfort zone. Learn how you can help strengthen your community at belongingbeginswithus.org/teamup.
Being a parent, especially for the first time, with that comes a lot of self-doubt. As a dad, I just try to lead by example. When you're trying to be the best person that you can be, your kids see that and then they emulate that.
Right now, from the Room to Room Weather Center, here's meteorologist Gabe Maynor.
Welcome back to Mississippi Live Weather at 5. We're going to start with a look outside. This one submitted from North Mississippi storm chaser Tyler in the Oxford area. And this was from those storms that were moving through earlier on, that large line of storms that are currently over Tupelo and over the Saltillo area. Well, this is what it looked like earlier on, that disorganized shelf on that leading edge, at least showing some intensification to produce some small hail and even produce some gusty winds. We saw that up around Marshall County with some of that damage that happened. Another view there shows that shelf there in the distance just behind that tree line. This was off Highway 334 just south of Oxford, like we mentioned a moment ago. Justin in New Albany also captured this, a great shot of just those dark clouds rolling on through. That's really what we're seeing right now in the Tupelo area. If I looked outside the window right now here in the Room to Room Weather Center, I'm sure that's exactly what I'd see. But honestly, that's a welcome sight at this point as that severe weather threat is diminishing and that significant rain potential is continuing to move through the area. So Matt, I know that severe weather is never what we want, but supplemental rainfall, especially with how big of a drought that we're under, we'll definitely take it here in North Mississippi. So I know that you've been tracking this behind the scenes. Just what exactly are you seeing?
So what we're seeing here, of course, on the latest on Mississippi Live Weather Radar again, the rainfall amounts, as you mentioned, one of those things that we are thankful for, looking at 12-hour rainfall amounts. Certainly it's been kind of the northwest portion of the state here where we have seen the most significant rainfall amounts. And that's what we expected. We hopefully expect that to expand more deeply into our area over the course of the next couple of days. And I think that certainly becomes more of a possibility there. When we look at some of kind of the future rainfall potential, where we show what was possible today, the rainfall amounts today on kind of the widespread scale, kind of in this green sort of zone and go more to kind of that like lighter to more middle blue there, back toward the south and east. But you'll see that when we look toward tomorrow as well as Wednesday, eventually that greatest chance starts shifting more toward the south and east and becomes more of a likelihood. But as far as excessive rainfall is concerned, flooding rainfall, that kind of stuff, mainly back to the north and west today, starts to shift slightly close to our area next couple of days. And it's not impossible. With some of our best chances for rainfall we've had in a little while, the Wednesday, there could maybe be a little bit of flash flooding potential there. But as far as maybe what people are more concerned with, the severe weather potential, that is not something that's over the top today. Certainly, despite the fact we've had a couple of warnings, and you can see we do still have that severe thunderstorm warning in effect there, extending into Tunica County. They've canceled the Coahoma County warning because that has proven to be a little less impressive there as it's gone through that collapse we've talked a lot about. That severe weather risk, though, for tomorrow does become slightly more possible. So let's see here. This is the convective outlook for tomorrow. A limited number of reports. That's what this color indicates, but we're not that far removed from a more significant severe weather chance back to the north and west of us for tomorrow. As we go into your Wednesday, though, the overall threat shifts more over top of us. As you can see, we find ourselves under that level 1 severe weather risk for all locations. But I think the big takeaway is that we don't expect to have a lot of reports of severe weather out of this, but some isolated damaging wind reports in particular, maybe hailstones a possibility the next couple of days as that threat kind of shifts more directly into our area. So Gabe, certainly, of course, watching that active weather, but as we send that back over to you, one of the big factors we'll look at going forward is going to be, again, the rainfall as well, right?
Oh, for sure. And the big thing that I feel like needs to be mentioned with those risk areas is all of that is associated with a cold front, a big driver in our forecast over the next couple of days and a big driver in our forecast for the extended forecast. Have you wanted some of those fall conditions? Well, that'll be happening for a few of us, or at least feeling closer like fall as that cold front extends on through. So looking at that day planner for your Tuesday, as you wake up and head out the door, 69 degrees, 84 there by noon. And towards the afternoon, 20% chances moving into the area. I'll explain why this percentage is a little bit misleading here in just a moment. But basically, model runs not exactly doing the best job with some of our short range tracks. So that's why some of that intensity that we're tracking for tomorrow, we need to up that just a bit. And that's why that 20 to maybe even 30% is in the forecast. So your Monday evening, a large batch of showers and thunderstorms moving through Union, Pontotoc, and Lee County, even up there towards Prentiss and Alcorn. I see some folks asking about Corinth. That, of course, progressing east and moving out of our area as we head into those next couple of hours. That isolated activity along the Mississippi River continues to linger there towards 7 and 8 o'clock. south. But even as we head overnight, those dissipating as well. Well, then the chances start to move primarily along the Tennessee state line, and that's where it'll remain overnight. So 10% chances are there, but it's a matter of how far south those chances do get, because it's going to be right on the cusp of our Tennessee neighbors, or on the southern end of the state. So 6 a.m., that's where your best chances will remain, is Alcorn, Tishomingo, Tippah, Benton, and Marshall County, once again, as those isolated chances do remain. But for a large part of us, staying on the drier side as we get our Tuesday started. Low temperatures, upper 60s, low 70s, so still a mild start to the day, despite this being the technical first morning of fall. We want it to feel like fall. Unfortunately, just will not be the case for your Tuesday morning. But as we get going with that rest of the day, we will see those temperatures start to diminish. So as you can see, Tuesday 69, Wednesday 70, Thursday 68. But then the cold front will start to be felt just a bit more. We're talking 59 to 60 degrees for our weekend starting out those days. I cannot wait for that weather. Fall is officially here, but it'll really be here by the end of the week. So Tuesday morning, as you can see, the chance is still riding right along the state line. That's where they'll remain. And let me explain as we get into this afternoon forecast of why that matters. Well, rain chances today. Models didn't even do a good job with that, and we're talking within an hour to 2 hours after the run was issued, that it wasn't really lining up with where those storms were positioned and the time frame for this afternoon. So heading into tomorrow, chances lingering as far north as Tennessee and not really getting into North Mississippi. It's hard to believe for me. I think that will trend a little bit more south than what those storms are tracking there on Futurecast currently. Again, this is your HRRR model, so I'm really excited to get those next few runs out, because it'll kind of let me know the positioning on this and how confident the HRRR model is on this, because overall I expect this to be pulled a little bit more south as what happened today happened. I mean, it didn't really forecast it. It was way too far north. And so that kind of got pulled south in reality, and I expect that to happen for Tuesday as well. So Tuesday morning, your best chance is still right along Tishomingo, Corinth, Iuka, and there towards the Ripley area. So by noontime, that's where those chances remain. Getting into the afternoon, some of those chances start to move a little bit more south as well. And so those isolated chances will move into the forecast there by 3, 4, and 5 o'clock. Again, with that large batch of moisture, very light in nature, but at least it's there showing up in our model run. With the severe parameters that we're possibly seeing in our forecast, wouldn't be surprised to see a little bit more of that isolated activity extending more towards Panola, Marshall, and Coahoma County. So paying attention to that in regards to your Tuesday afternoon. But this is definitely something that the models have struggled with. Summer forecasting is not an easy thing to do. And so it's really going to be a question that we hope to answer as we head into tonight and into the 10 o'clock hour as we get those latest model runs. And Matt, I see that you're there listening. Do you have any thoughts on those model runs? Did you see anything yesterday that stuck out to you in regards to how today panned out?
Yes, I did. You know, I mean, the storms are a little farther south and east, as you kind of alluded to there. And hold on a moment. We'll go back here for a second. We'll reassess that here. So give me just a moment as I kind of take this back graphic. So yeah, I would say the models were too far to the north and west today. They had most of the storms dying out before they made it across the Mississippi-Alabama state line and then regenerating in the afternoon. So I would say they weren't super far off on today, but I would say we definitely have a greater coverage than what we expected if you look just purely at the models. You know, part of this is we're just kind of waiting on this front back to the north and west to kind of kick into the area. And so that's why the most reliable timing is going to be Wednesday as this fully moves into and through the area. And then tomorrow, you know, if we just get the right kind of wave running ahead of this, I mean, you clearly have this big area of kind of cloud cover and moisture here in advance. It's kind of trying to advect and move into that. That's one of the things I think kind of enhances that chance. But I would say clearly where these storms are the strongest north and west, when we're talking about severe weather risk here, it's tomorrow night before that becomes, I think, the greatest likelihood to kind of get more organized into our area. So yeah, I would say that there's enough indication there to say some storms could run faster. That wouldn't be shocking at all. It's just models are pretty inconsistent still with this forecast, and I guess that's what we typically should expect for this time of the year. Gabe?
Into that fall season and summer, sporadic development is something we will continue to see until fall really kicks in. And that frontal boundary will be a big driver in kind of bringing in more of that fall-like weather, because Let's take a look at temperatures tomorrow. You're still seeing low 90s. So the fact that that temperature is still showing up when we should be in the mid 80s as of this point shows you that that summer forecast is not ending despite that fall season officially being in place. But let's go ahead and track out your futurecast heading into your Tuesday night. And that's where Matt was talking about with the greatest severe weather potential as we get into that Tuesday evening and Wednesday morning forecast. Here you see about 10 p.m. those storms starting to move into Carlisle, Forest City there in Arkansas, and extending more into the Mississippi River. This will be where some isolated development could move in, one of those popping up around Memphis there towards 3 a.m. And we could see a little bit more of that along the Mississippi Delta. 6 a.m. a lot of action happening along the Tennessee state line with some more of those isolated showers back there towards Greenville and Monticello. But you see on the far top left of your screen, that front starting to kick in. That's the big driver in our forecast. When does it move in? If it's during the afternoon, well, of course, mixing in that lifting mechanism along with the peak heating, not exactly a recipe for success. We could see some of that isolated severe development there along that time frame. Now, this is, of course, our strike model. Strike model a little bit more aggressive in regards to those rain chances and development. So take that with a grain of salt. But I do agree with the fact that we're getting more activity, being that it is 12 p.m. and that front is starting to kick in along the Mississippi River. So those chances really increasing there by early to mid-afternoon. And, of course, those chances for a few isolated showers and thunderstorms do linger into 6, 10, and even into those overnight hours once again before that front really clears out our region and gives us much drier and cooler air as a result. For some folks, Thursday morning, already seeing those temperatures drop and enjoying some better conditions, but that'll really be seen heading into that Friday forecast, Saturday forecast, and this weekend looks phenomenal. So high temperatures on your Wednesday. Since we do have those large amount of showers and thunderstorms, that keeps our temperatures at bay. We're not going to see too much change from that morning to afternoon time frame. 83 Tupelo, 86 Amory, some locations not surpassing the upper 70s there towards Oxford and Holly Springs. So it's going to be a forecast we can look forward to. I know a lot of folks are ready for that fall season to move fully in place, but that front going to be the big driver, and we expect that to be moving in through Wednesday, where we see 60% chance, 30% with some lingering showers there for our Thursday. And once that front fully clears, take a look at how temperatures trend. Of course, they're going to be cooler with that rainfall, but then with the drier weather, the fact we're seeing temperatures right around that same range means that those seasons are starting to shift ever so slightly, and low temperatures follow that same trend, 68 all the way down to 60 with a few upper 50s showing up by this weekend. So a busy next couple of days, as Matt was mentioning, with the severe weather risk in place. We will be walking through that in a bit more detail. Oh, take over.
No, that's okay. So I wanted to go ahead and hit radar one more time before we go, because I heard you going in your wrap-up tone of voice.
Yeah, you caught me.
So, yeah, and so give me just a moment here to kind of check out the latest there on Mississippi Live Weather Radar. Oop, I went way wide there instead of clicking radar. There we are. And now let's bring it way back in. So again, looking at that severe thunderstorm warning we had out there still for Tunica County. Tunica County on the edge of this there. This one actually looks worse because there's a lake there near Hillside that's kind of showing up. Makes it look like it has black in the middle, but that's actually a lake there that's picking up. So heading more toward Commerce there. As we talked about earlier, I think Tunica, probably this stays a little bit north of where you're at there. But I will say that I do think that our camera up there at the river crossing near West Helena, yeah, there we go, has a little bit better view than what we had earlier on, as we're kind of looking back into that there, kind of the trailing. The most significant portion of that is out there just a little bit north. Oops, and I'm just a little bit off camera there. So it's just a little bit out there, a little farther to the northwest of where we're looking at. Of course, looking toward, you can see the Arkansas sign there. It does look like, of course, some folks crossing that bridge right now at this point. Go and clear that off. So let's get a track on that. Northwestward speed on this, northeastward speed, we'll say about 22, 25 miles per hour. We know, again, the far northwest corner of the state, don't have a ton of viewers over there at this point. And we'll extend this out, we'll say 60-mile track. So eventually getting that, and we'll clean this up a little bit more on cities. There we go. So Horseshoe Lake, we're looking at 6:30. Of course, that's where we're pretty much looking well ahead there. Walls about 6:52. Takes all the way till 7 o'clock to Horn Lake. I don't know if this holds together then. That's still better part of around an hour and a half away from that. As we kind of clear that off for a moment here and check out the rest of the region as we pull down that cameras, I just want to check out a few of those that were a little heavier earlier on. You know, there's some kind of spark point down here closer to Verona. We show that the thunderstorms we were looking at a minute ago. We can check out our camera there in South Tupelo as well, kind of pretty much right over top of that location, or at least getting closer to that. Yeah, kind of looking beneath the base of that. There'll be some wicked looking clouds out here, but this is not a scenario where that's going to produce tornadoes, things of that nature, just kind of a wicked look on the way that looks. And I don't know, Gabe, if you're behind the scenes there, have the ability to adjust that or tilt that camera up at all to kind of get a better shot of that. While you're doing that, and I think your microphone is still definitely open, you just let me know if and when you get up. There you go. So yeah, I mean, you can see just kind of some fingery sort of looks on that cloud there. Not nearly as significant as the storm that came through a few days ago, produced the wind damage up there near the mall area. But if you look, you can still see some definition right here and some of the clouds back behind the precipitation. That's a sign that the precipitation is not super heavy and that it's going through a bit of a weakening phase. Appreciate, again, the North Mississippi Storm Chasers for allowing us to use their camera network there. Houston, this thunderstorm, again, relatively weak, all things considered, but has gone through a bit of a strengthening phase, and maybe the couple of the smallest hailstones, not impossible out of that. If we look at the real hail rate and hail potential out of this here, you'll notice no sorts of swaths showing up related to that versus what we had obviously in the Delta, where it was more significant out there closer to Clarksdale a little bit earlier on. So all of that to say, Gabe, I think things are largely looking like they're in pretty good shape as you head back over to the big monitor there for a second as we kind of wrap things up. I think the big headline, unless you've got something behind the scenes here over at the big monitor that we're looking at, you know, the monitor touchscreen?
Oh, the touchscreen. I thought, well, big monitor was green screen.
No. It's the touchscreen. I don't have a two-box built where, unfortunately, don't have a two-box built for me here and you, Chroma, at the same time. I'll have to build one of those. We'll get there. We'll get there. Yeah, anything that you're seeing behind the scenes in chat in the discussion with North Mississippi Storm Chasers or anything like that?
I mean, chat's been quiet, and that's a good thing. It means that we don't have any confirmed reports of what's happening on the ground. I for one, do not believe that nothing happened with that storm that was moving through the Mississippi Delta earlier on towards Coahoma County, because that was a very strong hail core. I mean, I'm sure that a few hailstones dropped, just probably more of a rural community, so not a lot of folks seeing that, especially to submit reports for. So hopefully that's what happened, because that means very little folks were affected. But I mean, I just don't see how that didn't drop a single hailstone, Matt. Do you?
Well, I think it did. I think you're right. It's more fields over there than, it's a little less populated in that part of Coahoma County. So hopefully someone's crop wasn't completely wiped out, but hopefully that also means houses weren't as significantly damaged. A reminder, of course, that we do have a service that helps you during severe weather, and that would be Weather Call, which allows you to be alerted to severe weather before it moves into your area for $15 a year. And you can see right below me on the screen here, there's a QR code. You can either snap a screenshot of this, or if you happen to be pointing this up at the TV, take a picture of it, and it'll help you get information to sign up. We've talked about Weather Call for years. Important for staying ahead of severe thunderstorms and tornadoes. Obviously, no tornadoes, what we've had out there today. Hopefully that continues to be the case. But if you'd like my voice giving you that phone call message, you can sign up there. There are some alerts for tropical systems as well as major flash flood emergencies that come through this. So there's some new features related to Weather Call, as well as lightning, believe it or not, for significant lightning situations, plus an all clear for that. So a lot of different things Weather Call takes care of. We always think layers save lives. The more layers we have, the more protected we can be during severe weather coverage. So again, I appreciate all the folks for that have signed up to that. Our next live broadcast
Next live broadcast is tonight at 6, and then we'll have another one tonight at 10, walking through those latest model runs. So we expect you guys to be there, because of course we want to stay weather prepared. And as Matt said, layers save lives. This is just the first layer we can put on, and a Weather Call being the second, to be on top of, especially the next few days with severe weather possible. So make sure to keep it here on Mississippi Live Weather. We'll see you back here in the next just under half hour for the very latest on what to expect for North Mississippi's weather.
March 24th, 2023 was a normal Friday. You know, we knew the weather was not good, but we needed to take shelter, and we didn't have shelter. My husband and almost 2-year-old daughter, Ethan and Riley, they did lose their lives in the storm. We're still recovering from it. We'll always be recovering from it. Matt Lawpon cares about the community. He's not just there to collect a paycheck. I feel like Matt Lawpon has proven himself trustworthy.